A drop in domestic violence-related deaths in Illinois provides hope to advocates, but they say the work isn't finished until that number reaches zero. A new report from the Illinois Coalition Against Domestic Violence signals what some call a positive trend. Reporter Nathaniel Langley learns what's driving the first decline in deaths in years.
Mike, following years of rising domestic violence deaths, some advocates feel awareness and education is paying off, but they admit their outreach to survivors of the crime is far from over.
Domestic violence is a crime, and it is a choice.
The Illinois Coalition Against Domestic Violence keeps a record of lives lost to the crime.
This work has been ongoing for decades.
The Springfield-based coalition recently released its homicide report for 2025.
The homicide report really reflects a positive trend.
Between 2024 and 2025, deaths from the crime in Illinois dropped by 26%.
Increased visibility, increased awareness, that is making an impact.
The report shows 72 domestic violence situations last year led to 101 deaths, 5 of those being in Winnebago County.
One is too many.
Andrea Carlson helps lead the City of Rockford and Family Peace Center's response to domestic violence.
We look at the spectrum of early prevention and intervention work, but also, again, future homicides.
The deputy director says part of bringing fatalities to zero will require early intervention.
We know that domestic violence doesn't start when you turn 18, right?
The city trains Rockford Public School counselors as one key to preventing the crime.
So if we can intervene early on when we see red flags for dangerous relationships, we could possibly curb future violence.
For anyone in need, Carlson says the door is open to prevent a survivor from becoming a statistic.
You don't have to go through this alone. There is help.
The report also shared the number of those seeking help jumped last year. The Illinois Domestic Violence Hotline experienced 17% more calls between 2024 and 2025.
Thank you, Nathaniel. And help can be just a phone call away. The hotline number on your screen is free and confidential, 24/7 with assistance in more than 240 languages.